Hello, everybody. Welcome. Normally, I really enjoy finding the most ugly, broken, dirty pieces of furniture I can and just giving them a new life. However, I'm just a tad bit embarrassed to admit I actually paid money for this piece and, well, kind of kicked my butt. Yes, you heard right. I actually paid money for this piece. But hold on one moment before you start judging me. It's only because I wanted to be a part of the Ugly Duckling Challenge for 2022. This challenge is once again hosted by the lovely Corey from Desert DIY. She does amazing work, lots of upcycling videos, lots of crafting videos, and a lot of what she produces is donated to charity. I will leave a link in my description to the full playlist, so please check it out once you're done watching this video. You will not be disappointed. So here she is. Here's my duck in all her glory, all her wonderful dirty glory. She's got several different colors of paint. She has areas that need to be repaired. She is a mess. But you know, there's just something about these old washstands that I find very charming. They are just so versatile. And then when I opened up one of the drawers, I was very pleasantly surprised because I found these cool joints. Have you ever seen these joints before? They are called nap joints, also sometimes referred to as pin and cove, scallop, or half moon. They were only produced for a very limited time between 1870 and 1900, so this piece is over 100 years old. After discovering this lady's age and seeing the multiple layers of paint she's endured over time, it was only necessary to test for lead. Well, that's a bummer, but it's not the end of the world. You just need to be conscious and protect yourself properly. I wore chemical resistant gloves, eye protection, a good quality respirator, and I covered my skin. I then proceeded on stripping this piece of furniture like I would normally strip a piece of furniture, just placing it on there, letting it sit for a few minutes, and then scraping it away. The only difference was I made a very conscious effort to make sure that I kept everything nice and moist. I wanted to keep all the particles as heavy as possible and weigh them down. I also kept right beside me a spray bottle full of diluted TSP to spray down anything that, was chipping off onto my drop cloth, which is disposable as well. I went about stripping this piece as usual by scraping off everything with a scraper into some sort of container. Now everything that I'm using on this piece is kind of getting sacrificed because it's now contaminated, so I'm not going to use it again. I did have to do about 2 layers of stripper to get as much of the paint off as possible. I wasn't able to get everything off, but I'll show you how I deal with that later. Everything got gathered up together and put into a garbage bag. for proper disposal, I contacted my local waste management division. They had an area where I was able to take not only all of this stuff I used to remove the lead, but also the top. This top was not worth saving. It was warped, broken, stained, and really not worth the effort to go through trying to remove all that paint. I'd much rather just build a new one. My prep area, along with the washstand itself, got cleaned with some TSP. TSP actually helps neutralize any kind of lead residue, and it's just a really good cleaner. Here's what the cabinet looked like after it was completely stripped and clean. As you can obviously tell, I wasn't able to remove every single little speck of paint. But the paint that's left on here survived not only 2 coats of stripper, it also survived a very good cleaning. It's not going anywhere, and in this state, it's really not harmful. But for peace of mind, I'm just going to encapsulate it with 2 coats of shellac. The shellac is going to act sort of like a glue to make sure any kind of residual paint is stuck on there for good, and also create just an extra barrier in between this washstand and my finish. I sprayed the entire cabinet down, front, back, bottom, inside, and out with 2 coats of shellac. This washstand was left to dry completely overnight, and then in the morning I thought, you know what, let's do another test just to see how well this barrier worked. So here I am, just doing another test, rubbing it again for 30 seconds. Actually, I rubbed longer than 30 seconds and I rubbed very hard. Remember how quickly this blue paint reacted in the first test? And check it out, nothing. There were a lot of repairs to do on this piece, but rather than make this video extremely long, I'm going to let you watch and enjoy some music.
Y con tus labios rosados, yo me muero por una prueba de placer. Siempre que estoy a tu lado, lo que siento, nadie más lo podrá saber. Vamos y sin censura, yo te hago todo a ti, dulzura. Que pasó entre yo solo cuenta todo. Y si tú quieres te pone a buscar. Como tú lo mueves, rapa, pam, pam, haciendo locura en la mañana. Si alguien te pregunta, no ha pasado nada, solo amaneciste en mi cama. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame. Hagamos jueguitos que de chiquito no podía hacer. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame. Que ahora adultos sabemos bien lo que vamos a hacer. Tu piel caramelizada y el pecado pronto voy a cometer. Esa voz tan delicada no demuestra lo que tú haces con mi piel. Vamos y sin censura, yo te hago todo a ti, dulzura. Que pasó entre yo solo cuenta todo. Y si tú quieres te pone a buscar. Como tú lo mueves, rapa, pam, pam, haciendo locura en la mañana. Si alguien te pregunta, no ha pasado nada, solo amaneciste en mi cama. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame. Hagamos jueguitos que de chiquito no podía hacer. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame. Que ahora adultos sabemos bien lo que vamos a hacer. Estás en mi zona, cosas que nunca decepcionan. Pero es mejor bien arrechado, no vamos pa'l hotel o pa' otro lado. Que como dice Balvin, esta vaina no acaba. Estás en mi zona, cosas que nunca decepcionan. Pero es mejor bien arrechado, no vamos pa'l hotel o pa' otro lado. Y como quieras, mami, yo estoy a tu lado. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame. Hagamos jueguitos que de chiquito no podía hacer. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame. Que ahora adultos sabemos bien lo que vamos a hacer. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame, ven y atrápame. Hagamos jueguitos que de chiquito no pude hacer. Dale, bésame, ven y atrápame.
Isn't it funny how we sometimes jump into these projects without any sort of direction? This is the point, however, where I started to get inspired, this top. Even though I sanded it down all the way to 220, it wasn't going to cause any sort of splintering. It was not smooth by any means. There was a lot of dings, a lot of character in it, very rustic, and I didn't want to cover that up, so I went with a medium tone brown stain. And then I started to get in visions of rustic Mexican pine furniture. I only live about an hour drive away from Santa Fe. I see this sort of furniture in my day-to-day life and find it very beautiful. Everything was finally prepped, cleaned, and repaired, and ready for some sort of finish. Since for the obvious reasons, an all wood natural finish was not going to be an option, we had to go with paint. And I was actually kind of excited because this gave me an opportunity to really dive into my creativity. As before, I said that the top kind of reminded me of a rustic Mexican pine piece of furniture, so I went with that and started to search really pretty Mexican embroidered clothing. I also remembered I had this belt that I purchased when I was at boot camp last year in Encinitas, California. It was so much fun just to be around so many other like-minded people and learn from some of the best in the industry. I was also very inspired just being at Debbie's store because of the light-hearted, quirky, colorful kind of vibe. She herself is also a very colorful, happy person. I'm only telling you all of this because I want to momentarily just take you along inside of my head and show you the kind of things that I think about before I paint a piece. The entire washstand started off with a base coat of Little Black Dress in DIY paints. This is an all-natural clay-based paint. It is very thick and highly pigmented, so what I like to do is water it down initially inside of a bowl whenever I'm painting on a base layer. This just helps me get that initial layer on a lot smoother. And since it's so highly pigmented, you really don't have to worry about diluting the color at all.
Se volvió ese chico que habló en mis canciones. Esas madrugadas y hermosas conversaciones. Se volvió ese chico que quería ver otra vez. Y me enamoré a volverlo a ver. Tú me ves como nadie más, bebé.
This is what it looked like after one coat of DIY paint. And after 2 coats, I had complete coverage. Before painting on my embroidery, I lightly sketched out where I wanted everything to be. I drew in a couple very simple folk art design flowers. These are simple flowers that anybody can draw. They are not meant to look perfect by any means. In fact, they look better if they aren't. I also referred to a picture online so I could draw in a couple alebrije on this piece. Alebrije are brightly colored mythical creatures, usually consisting of 2 or more animals into one. If you've ever seen the movie Coco, that's what papita is. Even over black paint, this artisan paint has really great coverage. And one of the unique qualities I enjoy about it is that you can actually really manipulate the clay. I painted on all these designs with a thick 1 layer and then purposely went in and gave it brush strokes so that I had the look of threads for my embroidery.
Se volvió ese chico que habló en mis canciones. Esas madrugadas y hermosas conversaciones. Se volvió ese chico que quería ver otra vez. que vuele, pero motivos para quedarme. Tú me ves como nadie más, bebé. Me diste alas para que vuele, pero motivos para quedarme. Tú me ves como nadie más, bebé. Tú me curas cuando más me duele. Sé que siempre has sabido amarme.
To add a little extra texture and definition to this piece, I used a little bit of DIY paint frosting. What this is a thickening agent. The paint is already thick, but if you add this to it, it makes it even thicker. The directions say to let it sit aside for about 12 hours once you mix it in, but after just about 2, I opened it up and it was thick. Mixing it around, I was reminded of this video I had seen by Debbie's Design Diary several years ago. She made these letters to look like cake letters for decor, and I actually got to see them in person. They're pretty cool. So all of this frosting and paint got me thinking, you know what? Let's take it literally and put it into piping bags.
¿Cómo estás, mami? Te quería preguntar. Como remix si estás pa' mí o estás para los demás. Mi amor, no pares, de ti siempre quiero más. La luna te la bajaré con estrellas en el mar. Yeah. Tú eres la chica que mueve el movimiento. Eso significa que tu cuerpo también. Me han contado que a ti te gusta lento. O sea, el proceso, me imagino lo otro también. Cuando te va a ver, hace mucho fue que me disfruto. Quieres más que yo.
There was a lot of paint frosting left over, so I took inspiration from this shirt and decided to mimic the sleeves on it. A little bit of liquid patina, pennies from heaven, really made this hardware pop.
Forma de cómo me hablas pa' mí es tan peculiar. Para ser niños contigo, sí me gustaría entrenar, porque haciéndolo contigo me siento feliz.
Using a liquid top coat, big top, and the softest brush I own, I sealed up the entire piece. Because DIY paint reactivates with water, you only need a very light touch when it comes to using the liquid top coat on your first coat. Once that first coat's completely dry, you can come in a little heavier handed with the second and subsequent coats.
No sé qué tú ves en mí, mi amor. Ya no dejes de mirarme, que ya me gusta quién soy. Contigo me siento en control. Eres el balance en este mundo, poco humor. Se volvió ese chico que habló en mis canciones. Esas madrugadas y hermosas conversaciones. Se volvió ese chico que quería ver otra vez. Y me enamoré a volverlo a ver. Tú me ves como nadie más, bebé. tus amigas diciendo que no ven, esto sea duradero, que sea algo sincero, que un perro no cambia y eso es lo que es él. Pero tú lo viste, mi amor, tú viste mi mejor versión, tú hiciste lo que nadie quería.